It is said when one communicates, it's from the soul. But when two collide, they go beyond the rabbit hole.
Kidney stones. What is a kidney stone?
It's a calcification. It calcifies over time. And when it calcifies, it's not smooth. It looks like a spore. It's got points and jagged edges. And so when those stones drop down and they're making their way and they're bouncing around the ureter and urine is trying to pass over that stone, that's where that pain comes from. It's the rubbing of the stone on the ureter, but it's also because you're needing to go pee. And the urine's trying to get past that stone, and that causes the inflammation. I was talking about with the staghorn stone that I first had. In most cases, basically your kidneys aren't getting flushed out enough. I think mine are called citric acid stones. If you're not flushing your kidneys out enough, they start to crystallize, and over time the crystals.
Does that include adult beverages?
This is where I will advise everybody in the world not to go down the rabbit hole, because if you go to Google and you see or beyond, thank you. If you go to Google and what causes kidney stones, and then you put in there what prevents kidney stones, you will find a cross section of the same answers. There are thousands of things that they say can cause and thousands of things that they say can prevent. Some are wives' tales and some are scientific research and that type of stuff. The only way you're getting a guaranteed answer is if you got a good urologist who knows what he's doing. But again, the stones will crystallize. And in my case, they crystallized at the top of the kidney and are really an area where they're not going to drop. Now, in other cases, I think more so like the stones that you've had, and other people that I've talked to, where you just get the stone, you have the agonizing pain, and then on 24 hours, 48 hours, you pass the stone. Those stones will crystallize, but then actually separate from the kidney, and then they drop down to the ureter, and then you end up passing them and stuff. I think I've told you before, there was one that I had, it was so bad that my wife took me to the emergency room, and it was like 3 a.m, and thank goodness there was nobody there, and they got me right in. But within a half an hour, they had maxed out the amount of morphine they could give me, because it wasn't stopping it. And if you've ever had morphine, it's pretty powerful. It almost makes you feel like you're going to stop breathing. It takes the pain away.
Well, that's why they call it morphine, because you're like, morphine, give me morphine.
And that's pretty much what I was doing. I was begging this lady. I was just like, she's like, I can't give you anymore. I have to go get a doctor. I'm like, go get a doctor, whatever you need. But I also think, and really, I cannot say this strongly enough. You have to talk to somebody that knows about kidney stones when you are talking to an emergency room person or talking to a regular doctor, because the fact is, until you talk to somebody that knows about them, again, I'm going to backtrack. I'm going to go back to the first time when I went and I was just shocked that I was going to have what they call a percutaneous surgery, where they go into your side and basically blast the stone out with a laser. I said to my doctor, I'm like, I thought you did like lithotripsy for this. He's like, no. He's like, I don't know who told you that. He's like, the stone is way too big. If we do a lithotripsy and that stone falls apart and it gets clogged up, He's like, the pain you feel now is going to be nothing to what it's like if that starts clogging your ureter. He's like, then you'll be in for emergency surgery. So I went through, I don't know, 2 emergency room visits, 1 regular doctor visit. None of them, with all their experience combined, knew what my situation was until I got to a urologist, and he knew exactly what needed to be done. You and I have talked before, women that have been pregnant and then have had kidney stones have said the kidney stones are worse than labor. That should give everybody an indication of how incredibly painful it can be.
I just remember not being able to get in any kind of position to alleviate the pain. Because like you said, I don't get my back's starting to hurt, or I have this ongoing issue where it's very uncomfortable and I just need to take care of it. It happens like within an hour or two where it's like, whoops, something's happening here. And then within an hour, you're basically rolling around because you cannot get comfortable in any position. You start trying to blank everything out as you're, and you start speaking in tongues, I think. You're rolling around. Nothing you can do helps, and you become this totally different entity until that pain is able to subside. So, yeah, I definitely know what you're talking about and how other people would kind of say the same things. And I think you and I have those stories of when they first happened. Well, now I'm like a 32-year member on the Kidney Stone Club you and I belong to. And I remember the first time working in downtown Phoenix in this 23-story glass building. It used to be called the Valley Bank Center. And it hit me, and I was like, ah, and I kind of bent over. I told my boss, hey, I got to lay down a minute. Something's wrong with my side. I call it attack. When it's a kidney stone attack, it feels like someone's got a sharp knife. It's, been on fire, and they're jabbing it into your side, your flank, your lower flank towards your back, and sometimes to your front. And you're like, what the heck is this? So I was walking around bent over trying to do my job, dripping sweat. I'm like, oh, I'm not doing so well. But it happened to be that long ago, and I don't even think I was married yet, but I knew that my mom worked close by downtown Phoenix at another bank. And so I called her and I said, hey, come pick me up, because I think I was taking the bus, that great public transportation. It would have taken me 2 hours just to get to the doctor's office if I tried to get on a bus or switch 8 buses. So I called her and I said, hey, I'm going to wait downstairs. Come pick me up. Fly by here and come pick me up. Man, I got to get to the emergency room or the doctor or whatever. So I proceeded to go downstairs. This is in the middle of downtown Phoenix. And I had to lay down on the ground. It was almost like by a bus stop. And I had to literally lay down because it hurt so bad. And people are walking by. So now you're laying down on a sidewalk by a bus stop in the middle of downtown Phoenix with all this foot traffic. And people are looking like, oh, this poor guy. How can we help this poor guy? And people are like throwing money at me. It's just like, no, I got a medical issue here. I'm waiting to get picked up. And people are like, and they're not even tossing dollar bills. They're whacking me with like dimes and quarters and everything. Because I don't have a little hat or a cup or a bin or something. And I didn't have a guitar to play anything or a monkey and a grinder. But anyway, but I didn't think about it because all I could think about was the pain. But anyway, so you go to the emergency room or wherever I ended up at. They do the x-rays. They go, well, we don't see anything in there now, but it's strained, which means something did pass through. And I'm like, okay. So they do the dye. They take the pictures of you. And that's what probably knocked the rest of the kidney stone out into the bladder or whatever. So... And I started to feel better. I'm like, wow, after all that, I felt better. And then I relieved myself, and I'm like, wow, okay, what a relief. So then I go to a doctor. They send me back to my regular doctor, not a urologist, but a regular doctor. And the guy he looks at me, and he goes, what do you want me to do about it? That's the attitude he had. I said, Well, I'm telling you, I had this really bad pain. They said it looks like some stone or something went through because it was strained and all that. And he looked at me again. He goes, "What do you want me to do about it?" And I was like, "Changing doctors. That's what I'm going to do about it right now." So the first thing they tell me 30 years ago is it's not a kidney stone. It's some kind of generic muscular skeletal problem, which I don't know what that means. And he couldn't explain it to me. So for at least 10 years after that, I'm having these issues and these attacks, and there's nothing you can do for it but just take pain medication. And it wasn't until I was at Disneyland, and where I got the official word, which I always knew was kidney stones, and I think I was telling you this story, was I was having that same kind of situation in pain, and we ended up at Disneyland a few weeks later, and then my lower abdomen and groin are starting to hurt. Not bad, but a discomfort. And so I'm at Disneyland trying to enjoy it. I'm like, this doesn't feel good. And I got the urge to go, so I go to their restroom, and then all of a sudden I'm like, something pings in the urinal. It goes tink. I'm like, what the heck was that? It was a stone. I don't know how it got out, but man, it shot out, and it hits the porcelain, and it made a tink, a loud thing. And I'm like, whoa. And then all of a sudden, Disneyland became the happiest place in the world, because then I walked out of there I was dancing, man. I was like, woohoo, yippee. It felt so good, believe it or not, to have that thing pass. Then I got into more extensive doctor's visits with urologists and all that to determine, I had kidney stones. After a few emergency room visits after that, when they said, "You have massive kidney stones." Thank you.
And that goes back to like what I was saying earlier. Until you get to a urologist, it's just pointless, because they're the pros. It's funny you talk about Disneyland, because I think when you told me that story, I told you about there's some great stuff on the internet about Thunder Mountain Railroad as the kidney stone breaker, and how there's all these stories of people riding Thunder Mountain Railroad, and it either sped up the process to pass the stone, or it broke the stone so they could pass it, or whatever. But for anybody out there listening, you just Google it, and there's just some hilarious stories. And riding that, I can actually believe it, because the way that roller coaster is, your abdomen gets pulled all over the place on that. So there might be a tad of legitimacy to it. But the funny thing you're talking about with the blink sound is like, that's like the jackpot sound for somebody that's passing a kidney stone. That's like, that's heaven. That's just like, oh baby, this ride is over. I can get back to normal. And I will tell you, and I think you've had lithotripsy before, and I've had like 4 of them. And it's a miraculous invention. It really does the job. And for people that don't know what that is, it was actually a German invention. It's a machine that will basically they lay you down, and you go into an operating room. It's typically outpatient surgery, and you go in, they knock you out, and they place you next to this. It's kind of like a bubble, I guess is the best way to describe it. And they send sonic waves through this bubble, and then they just blast sonic waves into your kidney, and then it busts up the stone so that you can go ahead and pass the stone with most of the time without any issues or anything like that. And it's miraculous. And if you've had lithotripsy, and then you have to pass the stones, in which every time I've had lithotripsy, I've passed the stones, no problem. It really hasn't ever been an issue. However, that being said, if you have a larger size stone, and they can do lithotripsy, because there are parameters which urologists have to stay within for safety reasons. The last stone that I had was around 5 centimeters, and that's pushing the edge of surgery. And my urologist told me, he's like, we can do the lithotripsy, but it might take 2 or 3 trips to get this done versus going in and having the surgery. They have to make an incision into your back to where your kidney is at, and they insert a tube into your kidney, and that tube is where the urologist is going to place the laser to bust the stone up. And you got to live with that tube for about 3 days, and it drains constantly. At least my procedure was not fun, and so they had to back out of it. And a week later, they brought in a specialist from Scottsdale, and this guy got it done in like 10 minutes. It was crazy. Australian guy. Amazing. He was really amazing. And then you've got a 2-day stay in the hospital. So you're kind of weighing your options like, man, I got to go through all this, or do I go for an outpatient knowing that I might have to go back for another outpatient? And to me, especially in COVID times, I'm always going to go for the outpatient and get out of there as quick as I can. But that being said, there was one caveat to this, which is I'm going to go ahead and do this lithotripsy, but we're going to have to insert something called a stent into your ureter to help pass the stones. And basically what the stent does is it kind of opens up the ureter so that as the stone is broken apart, it kind of separates and kind of keeps everything in line so that you don't end up with the clogging issue that I mentioned earlier. And it's something that has to be done in that size of stone. I've had that twice, and it is something they have to do, but it is so uncomfortable for a man. I don't know about a woman, but for a man, it is really uncomfortable. But like I said, surgery versus 2 weeks worth of being uncomfortable, I'm going to take that every time. Well, one of the downsides to the stent is it's great when you're under and you're sedated and everything, they can put that stent in and you wake up and you definitely can feel a stent in you. There's no doubt about it. However, there's only one way to get that sucker out, and they don't put you under when they take that sucker out. And that is a ride that I would not want most people to take.
Pulls the strings. Pulls the strings.
Well, I have to tell you, before we were doing this podcast, I was doing some research on my own. And there are actually two options. Some urologists actually will give you the option of having a stent with a string attached at the end of it, so that when they tell you it's okay to take it out, you can take it out at home on your own. And so I found that to be very, I don't know, disconcerting, I guess. I don't think that I would ever want to attempt that on my own at home without any proper supervision. So I was actually shocked.
Well, not around the wife either, because you don't want to make your wife mad or your spouse mad, and they just go and they just rip it right out. Okay, Mr. Man.
No way, man. That's why I pay the copay, man. I'm not doing that crap on my own. I am not a doctor.
Yeah.
However, just to give people an idea, a quick idea, you go in when you're ready to have it taken out. They lay you on a table similar to what a woman would have for when she's going in for an examination. And the ladies have my respect because it is the most, let's see, I don't even know the right word for this. It's just the most humiliating moment you can have as a man in your life, because as you're sitting there, you have to get obviously completely undressed and you're just there. And then since they are going to send a camera in that direction, they will put a numbing gel on you, and they have to squeeze that gel to help that camera go where it needs to go. Now, I'm trying to keep this as adult as possible here, but it's just humiliating. There's just no other way to say it. You've got this poor gal who has to do this job, and they're so professional and they're so kind and everything, and I'm sure it's something they see at...
Well, that's what they say at massage parlors, that they're professional and they're kind.
This was no massage parlor.
but then the lube comes out, and you're like going, okay, where are we headed with this?
She does her thing, and then she walks out, and I'm just like, call me. Because I'm just like, what?
They give you a cigarette when you're done with the taking the stint out.
Little mood lighting, a little martini while you're waiting for the doctor to come.
They don't give you a robe. They give you like one of those silk smoking jackets.
And then lights out, and then you're just waiting for the doctor to come in, and he comes in, and it's just all business. It's like my doc never wastes time with the small talk. He just gets right to it. And man, in the first, I don't know, 10 seconds, your heart rate probably shoots up 100 because the sensation of what is happening, which is not supposed to happen, is unbelievable. I've looked for the words to describe it. I don't know, because as this camera is making its approach to grab the stent, it's flushing out hot water to help the approach to grab it.
No.
And so you've got that sensation of the camera going where no camera should go, and then you've got the hot water being flushed in. It is the weirdest experience. Your body just kind of takes over, and you're just along for the ride. You have no idea like what's happening. And right next to me is a screen that he looks at. Literally, I could look to my left and I could see what he's doing, but I won't do that. I do not want to see. I kept looking in the other direction because I don't. But he sits there and he's like, okay, well, we're going past the blah, 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 and we're almost there. And it's like the landing on the moon or something. And then
here's the good neighborhood to your left. Oh, this neighborhood. Uh-oh. It's looking a little shady.
I'm just like, okay, we're passing the prostate. I'm like, holy cow, where are we going with this thing? I'm like, are we going to stop in the kidney?
Yeah,
I mean,
wow.
It's like, and the whole thing maybe lasts a minute and a half to 2 minutes, but I swear it feels like it's an hour. It takes your breath away. I've passed stones probably for up to 6 weeks after that. What the urologists like to call gravel. Basically, it's all the stone that's busted up. But I never experienced any pain passing the stones or had any issues where I had to go back. And so I go back next month for a follow-up x-ray to see if there's anything left. I am going to backtrack for a minute because you brought up something earlier about what causes them and stuff like that. So you and I think, are pretty much on the same page as far as what we eat, what we drink. We both really don't drink alcohol or anything like that. And I think we eat pretty much the same kind of foods and drink the same type of drinks, and definitely not probably the healthiest diet for both of us. However, we have a friend of ours, Cameron, a longtime friend of ours, who is a health nut and is a guy that works out, drinks water. He lives a very good lifestyle. And 2 years ago, he got a stone. And he's a guy that does drink a ton of water and does do the right things and stuff like that. I used to take supposedly preventative medicine from stones forming. There was 2 types that he had me on every month, and it didn't do anything. I kept getting stones. And so he finally was like, "What, this isn't working. We're just going to take you off of this." Because I don't know, there's got to be something other than just diet. That now, my dad never had kidney stones. My mom's never had kidney stones. I don't think it's a hereditary thing, but I just think something happens. You get to a point in your age and your kidneys just don't work the way that we've been used to them working. And you get stones, and it's a nightmare. But again, how they haven't come up with something yet that is a simpler way to get rid of the stones is because it's got to cost the medical industry millions of dollars with the amount of people that get them every year between hospital visits. And
well, that's why would you want to prevent
right, yeah, there you go.
Because then that's a paycheck.
Yeah, you're right.
That's a paycheck. It's an industry. The kidney stone industry. We're keeping them alive. Urologists would have to go deliver newspapers. A part-time job just to keep up because they wouldn't have as much business if it wasn't for those Kidney stones. Ken, you basically ran the gambit with the type of kidney stone processes. It was a nice period of time where after that first lithotripsy, I didn't have problems for years. For those of you out there who maybe are listening because you knew we were going to be talking about kidney stones, or maybe you're going to have a lithotripsy, it's a pretty easy process for the most part. You don't have to do a lot of prep for it, and they knock you out, and it's outpatient. You get up and you leave. But before you leave, and this is just to give people a little visual, just because that's what we do here. We go well beyond the rabbit hole, and the kidney stone. We go well beyond the kidney stone pathway. Is that before you leave, they want you to relieve yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
Just to get it all out of your system, because you've got fluids and you've got stuff that have gone through you. Plus, everything that this lithotripsy sonic device has pulverized, which is not just the stone. It's basically pulverizing everything in that kidney area. So when you go relieve yourself, you wouldn't be surprised. What Ken said was gravel, but it basically looks like something that's on a slaughterhouse floor. That's what it looks like. So when you relieve yourself, you're thinking, where did this come from and what is it? Because it's an unnatural process that comes, whatever comes out of your system at that point. But it's nothing to be scared about, because it's just everything that the kidney, what was pulverized in the kidney. It just looked very odd and very strange, but after that's said and done, everything is great and you're fine and you're back to the real world again.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because that is true. That the procedure is very simple, and there is literally no pain associated with the lithotripsy procedure. This is not the case for everybody, but for me, they have to intubate me every time. And so it's not that I just get knocked out.
They put you under a hot lamp until you hatch?
Not incubate.
A little heat lamp there where you have this chicken? Oh. Intubate. Oh, not incubate. Oh. Okay.
And I was like...
They put you in a big egg, like Mork from Mork.
I asked the anesthesiologist, I'm like, it'd be great if you guys didn't have to intubate me. Because when you get intubated, then your throat's all dried up. It takes a couple days, at least for me, to kind of get all that crap out and everything. And she's like, okay, I'll see how you do. But if you're not reacting well, then I'm going to intubate you. And I said, okay, that's great. So I went in, did the procedure, and then I was in recovery, and the anesthesiologist came by, and she goes, I had to intubate you. She's like, you took one blast, and she was real animated. She's like, you started flopping around like a fish. She was like, we couldn't get you knocked out, so the doctor said we had to intubate you. And I guess the urologist said that what it would feel like if you were awake is if somebody took a baseball bat to your side and took a full swing if you were not knocked out while it happened. And so for me to get fully out, they always have to intubate me. But she was really funny. I wish I would have had her again, because she was just, you were flopping around like a fish out there. We couldn't settle you down.
So when they give you an anesthesia or whatever, or they give you a local, or they put something into your drip, I'm a lightweight. So any kind of medicine that goes in that's supposed to knock you out, it does it. I can see him put it in, and all of a sudden I start going, we need a ride to the shareholders meeting. And I'm gone. Yeah, I don't flop around like a fish. I'm just out like a light. I'm a lightweight when it comes to that kind of
Well, and she said the reason is because I have sleep apnea. Can't get like regular sleep, and so because of that, that's why they have to always intubate me, because I won't get knocked out because of the sleep apnea. It's just not fun. We can joke about it. It's fun to joke about for sure, because I think I mentioned to you the thing about kidney stones is that everybody has a great story. It's never just, I had a kidney stone and I passed it. It's your thing at Disneyland, and I couldn't get any more morphine because the pain was so excruciating. I have a friend of ours she was at a teacher's conference, and in Las Vegas, and she didn't even know what was happening because she had never had a stone before. And she talked about the same thing you did, where she was, the only thing that could give her relief was laying on a cold floor in the hotel room. That was the only thing. It's everybody that passes a stone has these just incredible stories, because it's just, you never just pass a stone. There's always something to it. And that's what I think, that's what you can laugh about, is like, it's just never like you get a cold or you have allergies. It's not that kind of stuff. It's agonizing. There's just, between the two of us, we still couldn't describe the kind of pain it is, what you go through.
No, it's, I think your brain blocks a lot of that out.
Yeah.
Because as you're going through it, something just says, oh, I don't want to keep doing this, even though you remember doing it. But your brain, I think, tries to turn a lot of that stuff off. The one time I clearly remember one of the kidney stones was, I dropped a car off at a dealership to have service done, and then I took the shuttle back. Now, on the way back, I started to feel it. I'm like, oh, no, it's happening. It's happening. It's happening, everyone. And then as soon as he dropped me off, I ran the house and I was like, oh. And then for the next 2 hours, writhing around in pain, in the shower, on the bed, on the floor, trying to just deal with it. It passes about, like I said, about 2.5 hours later. And then all of a sudden it was time for me to call the shuttle up again, the dealership, to come pick me up, to come get my car. How convenient. And here I'm all spent and sweaty and going to get my car in the shuttle and then get back home. So it couldn't even inconvenience me enough to not pick up my car. So, but anyway, it was a crazy time.
Yeah, and I've actually had a couple of stones where it was the normal way. And I think the last time it happened, I could feel it. I knew what was going on, but I knew it wasn't like the big stones I usually get. And I drove myself to the emergency room just to make sure. And the gal was like, yep, you got a kidney stone. It's in the passing process. And they gave me a prescription for pain pills until I could pass it or whatever. And you just, like you knew right away, when it's such a specialized type of pain and discomfort that you don't mistake it for anything else. Once you've had it, instantaneously, what's happening? You just, when you get into that prepare mode of like, okay, we know what's coming, and that's about all you can do. And I will give one last piece of advice, because this is where I screwed myself up. Usually I would go in once a year to have what they call a KUB x-ray, which is essentially just a shot of your kidney, your ureter, and your bladder, I think is why they call it KUB. It's just a basic x-ray that checks for stones. And I hadn't had stones in a while, so I wasn't making my yearly visit and checking on them and stuff. And that's how I ended up having to have the stent put in, because if I would have gone for my regular thing, I would have been able to just have the regular lithotripsy without the stent and everything. So believe me, if you get them, go once a year, get them checked, make sure, because it's not worth it to skip it. I'm always in the mind of, if I've got it, I want to get rid of it. I don't want to hold on to them and come across that ever again. So that would be my last piece of advice. Make sure you go once a year and get it checked out, because man, you'll thank yourself later.